The world watched as the final countdown began. 10, 9, 8. The massive engines of the Earthship Pathfinder hummed with energy. 7, 6, 5. Captain Ethan Russell sat in the command chair, his eyes fixed on the control panel. 432. Dr. Lisa Moore checked the readings on the experimental drive one last time. 1. Communications Officer Alan Summers sent a final message to his pregnant wife. 0. The Pathfinder rose from the launch pad in a cloud of smoke and fire. Millions of people around the world watched on screens as humanity's first interstellar ship broke free from Earth's hold. The year was 2085, and after decades of exploring the solar system, humans were finally reaching for the stars. Engine status? Captain Russell asked as the ship cleared Earth's atmosphere. All systems running at optimal levels, said Dr. Moore. She had spent 15 years developing the drive that would take them to Proxima Centauri. The new drive is stable and ready for activation once we reach safe distance. Good. Russell nodded. At 45, he was one of Earth's most experienced space travelers. He had commanded missions to Mars, Jupiter's moons, and even the first mining operation on Saturn's rings. But this mission would make all those look like short trips to the store. Alan Summers checked his communications array. Ground control confirms we are on course. All systems green. He couldn't help thinking about his wife Kelly back on Earth. Their baby would be born while he was gone. If all went well, he would meet his child for the first time when the baby was already 3 years old. The Pathfinder carried a crew of 12. Besides Russell, Moore, and Summers, there were 3 pilots, 4 engineers, and 2 other scientists. Dr. Ben Wright was the ship's doctor and biologist, while Olivia Grant was the geologist who would study any planets they found. They spent the next 3 days moving away from Earth, performing checks on all systems. The mood on the ship was excited but nervous. No one had ever traveled this far before. No one knew if Dr. Moore's drive would really work as planned. On the 4th day, Captain Russell gathered everyone in the main control room. In 1 hour, we will activate the experimental drive, he said. If it works as Dr. Moore predicts, we will create a fold-in space that will take us to Proxima Centauri in just 14 months instead of the 20 years it would take with regular engines. Dr. Moore stepped forward. The drive creates a bubble of altered space-time around our ship. In simple terms, we fold space so that our destination comes closer to us. There is very little risk to the ship itself, but we might experience some strange effects as our perception adjusts to the fold. Any questions? Russell asked. What if something goes wrong? Engineer Frank Lopez asked what everyone was thinking. The drive has multiple safety measures, Dr. Moore said. If anything unexpected happens, it will shut down automatically and return us to normal space. In the worst case, we would be stranded and have to use conventional engines to return to Earth. No one mentioned the other possibility, that something could go so wrong they would never return at all. At exactly 1500-hour ship time, the crew strapped into their seats. Dr. Moore began the activation sequence for the drive. Power levels rising, she reported. 30%, 50%, 70%. The lights in the ship flickered slightly. Normal, Dr. Moore assured them. The drive draws significant power. 80%, 90%. The ship began to vibrate. Still within expected parameters, she said, though her voice was a bit less certain. 95%, 98%. Captain Russell looked at the main view screen. The stars seemed to be stretching, like lines of light instead of points. Dr. Moore? He asked. Almost there, Captain. 99%, 100. Drive fully active. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship lurched violently, throwing everyone against their restraints. Status, Russell shouted. No one answered. The control panels flashed with warnings. The ship shook harder. The star lines on the view screen twisted and bent in impossible ways. Shut it down, Russell ordered. Dr. Moore was frantically working at her station. The safety measures aren't responding. Something's interfering with the shutdown. Sequence. Alan Summers tried to send an emergency message to Earth. Communications are down. I can't get a signal out. The shaking became worse. Equipment broke free and flew across the room. A support beam cracked and fell, narrowly missing Engineer Lopez. "We need to evacuate to the emergency shelter." Russell unbuckled his restraints and began helping others to do the same. Dr. Moore stayed at her station. "Captain, the readings make no sense. The fold is growing in strength instead of stabilizing." The ship lurched again, harder than before. Dr. Moore was thrown from her seat. Russell caught her before she hit the wall. "Everyone to the shelter now," he ordered. They struggled through the shaking ship, grabbing onto whatever they could to stay upright. The lights flickered and went out, leaving only emergency lighting. The air became hard to breathe. In the emergency shelter, Russell did a count. All 12 crew members were present, though several had injuries. "What's happening to the ship?" Pilot Grace Chen asked, holding a cloth to a cut on her forehead. "The drive has created a fold much stronger than we planned," Dr. Moore explained, checking readings on the shelter's small control panel. "We're being pulled somewhere, but I can't tell where." "Can we still shut it down?" Russell asked. "I don't think so. Not from here." She looked at him with fear in her eyes. "Captain, I don't think we're in our solar system anymore. The readings suggest we've been pulled billions of light years away." A heavy silence fell over the shelter. If they were that far from home, they would never make it back, not even if they lived for 100 years. "There's something else, Doctor," Moore said quietly. "There's something out there, something massive, and I think it's pulling us toward it." The shelter's small view screen came to life. What they saw made no sense to their human minds. A vast structure of light and darkness, stretching across what looked like an entire galaxy, and they were heading straight for it. At that moment on Earth, all contact with the Pathfinder was lost. Search missions would find no trace of the ship or its crew. For all practical purposes, the Pathfinder and its 12 brave explorers had simply vanished from existence. The greatest journey in human history had ended before it truly began, or so everyone thought. 42 years passed. The world moved on from the tragedy of the Pathfinder. Children learned about the lost ship in history classes. Museums displayed models of the vessel and photos of its crew. Captain Ethan Russell and his team joined the ranks of explorers who had given their lives in the quest to push boundaries. Diane Wells yawned as she watched the screens at Luna Deep Space Monitoring Station. At 32, she was the youngest officer on the night shift. Most nights were quiet. They tracked known objects and occasionally spotted a new asteroid or comet. Nothing exciting ever happened. Tonight was different. "That's strange," she said, adjusting the settings on her scanner. A blip had appeared at the edge of their monitoring range. It was moving fast, much faster than any natural object. "What did you find?" asked her supervisor, Ted Green. "Unknown object entering the solar system." She checked the readings again. "It's on a direct course for Earth, moving at about 12% of light speed." Green leaned over her shoulder. "That's impossible. Nothing we have can move that fast. It's slowing down now." Diane's fingers moved across the controls, trying to get more data. "I'm getting some strange energy readings." Green picked up the secure line. "I need to call this in. Keep tracking it." Over the next 24 hours, space agencies around the world focused all their attention on the approaching object. As it came closer, they got their first good images. "It's a ship," announced Dr. Sam Foster at NASA headquarters. "And it appears to be of human design." The images showed a vessel with the basic structure of the Pathfinder, but it was changed in strange ways. The hull seemed to flow and shift as if it were partly liquid. Strange patterns of light moved across its surface. "Could it be the Pathfinder?" someone asked. "Impossible," said Dr. Foster. "That ship was lost 42 years ago. But as more data came in, the impossible became harder to deny. The size and basic shape matched the lost Earth ship, and it was following a direct path to Earth, slowing as it approached, as if it knew exactly where it was going. Space Force Commander Jack Peterson was put in charge of the response team. He gathered a group of 20 specialists, soldiers, scientists, and engineers to intercept the ship. "We don't know what we're dealing with," he told them as they prepared to board their interceptor vessel. "It could be the original ship somehow, returned, It could be aliens who copied our design. It could be something else entirely. Stay alert and take no unnecessary risks. The interceptor launched from the moon base and matched course with the incoming ship. As they got closer, the strangeness of the vessel became more apparent. Parts of it seemed to fade in and out of visibility. The hull material reflected light in ways that didn't make sense. "It's not responding to hails on any frequency," reported Communications Officer Linda Park. "Keep trying," Peterson ordered, "and prepare for boarding. We need to know what's on that ship." The two vessels docked, in Earth orbit. Peterson led the first team through the airlock. They wore full pressure suits with helmets, not knowing if the air inside would be breathable. The airlock opened to reveal corridors that were both familiar and alien. The basic layout matched the plans of the Pathfinder, but the walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft light. The floor adjusted to their steps like walking on firm moss. "Life support is active," said Engineer Roy Beck, checking his instruments. "Air is breathable. It's actually cleaner than what we have on our ship." Peterson kept his helmet on anyway. "Stay together. Let's find the bridge." They moved through the ship, finding systems and equipment that seemed to be grown rather than built. Screens and control panels appeared as they approached and disappeared when they moved away. When they reached the bridge, they found something none of them had expected. 12 pods lined the walls, each containing a human figure suspended in a clear fluid. Peterson approached the nearest pod and wiped away the condensation on its surface. The face of Captain Ethan Russell looked back at him, unchanged from the photos taken 42 years ago. "They're all here," reported Dr. Vicky Adams, moving from pod to pod. "The entire crew of the Pathfinder, and they haven't aged a day." "Are they alive?" Peterson asked. Adams checked her instruments. "Yes, they appear to be in some kind of suspended animation. Heart rate and brain activity are minimal but present." Engineer Beck was examining the ship's systems. "Commander, you need to see this. The ship's log is active." On a screen that formed out of the wall itself, images began to play. They showed the Pathfinder's disastrous jump, the crew's terror as they were pulled across space. Then it showed something else. The massive structure they had approached. It wasn't a structure at all, but a collection of beings, vast and ancient, made of energy and thought. "The archivists," whispered Dr. Adams, reading the text that appeared beside the images. The log showed how these beings had intercepted the Pathfinder, studied it and its crew, and then transformed it. The humans had been placed in suspended animation while the ship was rebuilt using technologies beyond human understanding. "They sent them back," Peterson said in wonder. "After all this time." "But why?" asked Officer Park. As if in answer, one of the pods began to open. The fluid drained away and Captain Ethan Russell took his first breath in 42 years. His eyes opened, looking around in confusion until they settled on Peterson. "Did we make it home?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. "Yes," Peterson answered. "But you've been gone a long time. It's been 42 years since the Pathfinder disappeared." Russell struggled to sit up. 42 years? That can't be right. "The archivist said they would return us soon after we left." "Who are the archivists?" Dr. Adams asked. "They saved us when our drive malfunctioned," Russell explained. "They said they wanted to learn from us. He stopped, pressing a hand to his head. "There's so much they showed us, so much they changed." "Changed how?" Peterson asked. Russell looked at him with eyes that suddenly seemed much older than his physical body. "They changed everything. The ship. Us. They gave us knowledge that will change humanity forever." He glanced at the still sleeping form of Dr. Lisa Moore. "They showed us how the universe really works." "Why did they send you back?" Peterson asked. "To help prepare Earth," Russell said. "There's so much more out there than we ever imagined. They want to meet us properly someday, but first we need to grow up a little. They sent us back with tools to help." "Tools?" Peterson looked around at the transformed ship. "This ship is just the beginning," Russell said. "The real gift is what they put in our minds. What they taught us." He smiled weakly. "I hope Earth is ready for it. On Earth, People stared at their screens as news of the Pathfinder's return spread. Humanity held its breath, not yet understanding that everything was about to change. The next morning, all 12 crew members of the Pathfinder were moved to a secure medical facility in Arizona. Top scientists and government officials from around the world gathered to examine them and hear their story. The ship itself remained in orbit, guarded by Space Force vessels. No one knew how to operate its new systems, and some were afraid to try. Captain Russell sat in a comfortable room that still felt like a prison. Doctors had been running tests on him all day. They said his body was still 38 years old, exactly the age he had been when the Pathfinder left Earth. 42 years had passed for the world, but not for him or his crew. "How are you feeling?" asked Dr. Sam Foster, entering the room. He was the top expert on alien technology, though until now humans had never found any. "Confused," Russell answered honestly. "Everything looks both familiar and wrong. The buildings, the clothes, the technology. It's all just a little different than I remember." "That's understandable," Foster said. "A lot has changed in 42 years. But what I really want to know is what happened to you after your ship disappeared." Russell closed his eyes, trying to sort through the flood of memories. "Our experimental drive malfunctioned. Instead of creating a small, controlled fold in space, it created a massive one. We were pulled billions of light years away in an instant." "Billions?" Foster looked doubtful. "That's not possible with any technology we understand." "It wasn't supposed to be possible with ours either," Russell said. "But it happened. We found ourselves near I don't know what to call it, a collection of energy beings. They called themselves the Archivists." "Were they hostile?" Russell shook his head. "No. They were curious. They said they had been watching our part of the universe for a long time. They were excited to finally meet humans directly." "What did they want?" "To learn about us. They said we were unique. Most intelligent species they had encountered were either like them, pure logic and thought, or they were emotional, but not very advanced technologically. They said humans had an interesting balance of logic and emotion." Foster leaned forward. "And in return, why did they send you back with this changed ship?" "They offered us knowledge. They said they wanted to help humanity avoid some of the mistakes other species had made. But they wouldn't just give us everything at once. They said that would be harmful, like giving a child a weapon before they understand its danger." In another room, Dr. Lisa Moore was waking up. The medical staff had been cautious about reviving the crew too quickly. Dr. Moore opened her eyes to see a woman in a white coat checking her vital signs. "Where am I?" Dr. Moore asked. "You're in a medical facility in Arizona," the doctor answered. "My name is Dr. Olivia Ward. You've been in suspended animation for quite some time." Dr. Moore sat up slowly. "The archivists, they changed me. Changed all of us." "How so?" Dr. Ward asked. Dr. Moore held out her hand. Above her palm, a small ball of light appeared, floating in the air. Dr. Ward stepped back in shock. "They showed me how energy and matter are connected," Dr. Moore explained. "How thought can influence both. It's not magic, it's just science we didn't understand before." Back in Captain Russell's room, he was explaining more to Dr. Foster. "The archivists didn't just change our ship. They changed us too. They gave each of us specific knowledge based on our roles and abilities." "What kind of knowledge?" Foster asked. "Dr. Moore understands energy manipulation now. Engineer Lopez knows how to grow technology instead of building it. Dr. Wright learned about cellular repair at levels we never imagined." Russell paused. "And I learned about the archivists themselves and why they're helping us." "Which is?" "They believe humanity has potential. They've watched countless species rise and fall. Some destroy themselves, some stagnate. The rare few manage to reach a level where they can join a larger community of intelligent beings." Russell looked Foster in the eye. "The archivists want us to be one of those rare few." Over the next few days, more of the crew woke up. Each demonstrated knowledge or abilities that seemed impossible. They could manipulate energy, communicate with the ship systems from a distance, and heal injuries with just a touch. Government leaders grew nervous. Some saw the returned crew as a threat. Others wanted to use their knowledge to gain power. Military officials demanded access to the technologies on the ship. Dr. Moore met with a group of scientists to explain what she had learned. The materials we used to build the Pathfinder were primitive compared to what the ship is made of now. The new hull is a living metal that can repair itself. It responds to thought and can change shape as needed. How does it work? One scientist asked. It's hard to explain with our current scientific language, Dr. Moore said. It's like trying to explain quantum physics using only words from the Middle Ages. In another building, communications officer Alan Summers was showing what he had learned. He placed his hands on a standard computer and the screen filled with symbols no one recognized. This is the language the archivists use to store information, he explained. They downloaded their entire historical archive into the Pathfinder's systems. Solutions to problems humans have struggled with for centuries. Clean energy, food production, disease, it's all there. Can you access it? Asked a government official. Parts of it, Summers said. Each of us was given access to different sections, based on what the archivists thought we could handle. That night, Captain Russell sat with his crew in a common area of the facility. They spoke quietly, away from the microphones they knew were listening. They're afraid of us, Engineer Frank Lopez said. Can you blame them? Russell replied. We show up after 4 decades with impossible technology and changed bodies. Of course they're scared. We need to be careful, Dr. Moore warned. The archivist said this knowledge could be dangerous if used the wrong way. Did everyone receive the same warning I did? Russell asked. The others nodded. Then we all know the failsafe. If humanity tries to use this knowledge for destruction, it won't work. What do we do now? Asked Pilot Grace Chen. We do what the archivist asked, Russell said. We teach, slowly, carefully. We help humanity take its next steps. He looked around at his crew, these people who had become more than friends through their shared experience. The archivists believe humans can join them someday. I believe it too. Outside the facility, crowds had gathered. Some held signs welcoming the returned explorers. Others held signs warning of alien deception. News reports speculated wildly about what the crew had brought back. Religious leaders debated what it meant for their faith. Scientists argued about the possibilities. A new age was beginning, ready or not, and the 12 members of the Pathfinder crew were at the center of it all. A month after the Pathfinder's return, the world was still trying to understand what it meant. Some countries welcomed the new knowledge, others banned any mention of it. Large companies tried to claim the technologies for themselves. Ordinary people watched and wondered what would happen next. The crew members were finally allowed to leave the facility, though they were closely watched. Each was assigned guards who followed them everywhere. The government called them security details, but everyone knew they were really there to make sure the crew didn't do anything dangerous. Dr. Lisa Moore sat in a large laboratory filled with the best scientific equipment on Earth, but she ignored most of it. Instead, she held a small piece of metal in her hand, focusing on it intently. The metal began to glow and then slowly changed shape, forming a small, complex device. Amazing, said Dr. Ward, who had become her assistant. What is it? A water purifier, Dr. Moore explained. It can clean any water no matter how dirty, and it never needs replacing. She handed the small device to Dr. Ward. The plans for these are already in the Pathfinder's database. I'm trying to teach your engineers how to make them, but they're having trouble understanding the principles. Can't you just make them yourself? Dr. Ward asked. I could, but that's not the point. The archivist didn't want us to just give you fish. They wanted us to teach you how to fish. In another building, engineer Frank Lopez was working with a team of Earth's top engineers. They watched as he placed his hands on a regular computer, closing his eyes in concentration. The screen filled with complex diagrams. This is the design for an energy cell, he explained. It draws power directly from the quantum field. A cell this size could power a house for 100 years without needing to be recharged. That's impossible, one engineer said. Lopez smiled patiently. 100 years ago, people would have said smartphones were impossible. 50 years ago, they would have said AI assistants were impossible. The limitations you think exist are just gaps in your understanding. Captain Russell had been meeting with world leaders trying to explain what the archivists wanted. It wasn't easy. Some leaders were interested only in military applications. Others were suspicious of anything alien. A few understood the bigger picture. The technologies we brought back are just tools, he told them. What matters is how you use them. The archivists have seen many civilizations rise and fall. The ones that survive are those that learn to work together. And if we don't? Asked one leader. Then the technologies won't work for you, Russell said simply. The archivists built in safeguards. The knowledge responds to intention. Try to use it for destruction, and it shuts down. Some countries didn't believe him and tried anyway. They took pieces of technology from the Pathfinder and attempted to turn them into weapons, but the materials would become inert in their hands, or the devices would simply stop working. Meanwhile, Dr. Ben Wright, the ship's doctor, was working with medical researchers. He showed them how to program the new materials to target specific diseases. This isn't just about treating symptoms, he explained. This is about reprogramming damaged cells to heal themselves. Cancer, heart disease, genetic disorders. All of these can be fixed at the cellular level. On the Pathfinder itself, now moved to a secure location on Earth, Communications Officer Alan Summers was working to unlock more of the archivists' database. He connected the ship's systems to Earth's networks, creating new interfaces that humans could understand. The complete database would overwhelm us, he told the technicians working with him. The archivists have been collecting knowledge for billions of years. We need to start with the basics and work our way up. The first part of the database he unlocked contained plans for environmental restoration, ways to clean the oceans, repair the atmosphere, and restore damaged ecosystems. The second part had designs for new types of cities that worked with nature instead of against it. Not everyone was happy about these changes. Large energy companies feared losing their business. Weapons manufacturers worried about becoming obsolete. Political leaders who relied on fear and division saw their power slipping away. They started spreading rumors. The Pathfinder crew were not really human anymore, they said. They were alien puppets here to weaken Earth for invasion. The new technologies were Trojan horses, designed to fail when humans needed them most. Some people believed these lies. Protests formed outside the facilities where the crew worked. A few turned violent. Captain Russell and his team received death threats. We need to move faster, Pilot Grace Chen told Russell during one of their meetings. The longer we wait, the more resistance builds. We can't rush this, Russell insisted. The archivists were clear. Introduce the knowledge too quickly and it causes more harm than good. But people are already fighting against it, Engineer Lopez pointed out. Some are, Russell agreed, but others are embracing it. Look, he showed them news reports from around the world. Communities were using the first wave of new technologies to solve local problems. A village in Africa had built one of the water purifiers, and now had clean water for the first time. A town in South America was using the energy cells to power homes that had never had electricity before. This is how it spreads, Russell said. Person to person, community to community. Not from the top down, but from the ground up. That night, as most of the crew slept, Alan Summers worked alone on the ship. He was the last crew member still in suspended animation when they returned to Earth, and he had spent the most time with the archivists. There were things he knew that he hadn't shared with the others yet. He placed his hands on the ship's main console. Show me the timeline, he said softly. A holographic display appeared in front of him, showing two possible futures for Earth. In one, the new knowledge led to peace and advancement. Humans spread throughout the stars, eventually evolving into beings of energy and thought, becoming like the archivists themselves. In the other timeline, fear and greed won out. The knowledge was suppressed or misused. Humanity remained trapped on a dying Earth, never reaching its potential. We're at the turning point, Summers whispered to himself. But there's something missing. He scrolled through the database, searching for the final piece of the puzzle. The archivists had told him it would be needed when the time was right, and then he found it. The true nature of the archivists, and why they had chosen to help humanity. The secret that would change everything. Alan Summers called an urgent meeting of the Pathfinder crew the next morning. They gathered in a secure room, making sure no one could listen in. "I found something in the ship's database," he told them, his voice low and serious. Something the archivist kept hidden until now. "What is it?" Captain Russell asked. Summers took a deep breath. "The archivists aren't aliens, they're humans." The room fell silent. The crew members looked at each other in confusion. "That's not possible," Dr. Moore said. "They were beings of pure energy, nothing like us." "Not like us now," Summers explained. "Like us billions of years in the future. They evolved beyond physical bodies. They found ways to exist as pure energy and thought. And then they learned to move through time as easily as we move through space." "They're time travelers?" Russell asked, his voice filled with doubt. "Not exactly. They exist outside of normal time. They can observe any point in history. And in their past, our future, humanity nearly destroyed itself. Several times. They've been trying to prevent that." Dr. Wright leaned forward. "So they sent us back with this knowledge to change their own past?" "Yes." Summers nodded. "They want to create a better timeline. One where humanity reaches its full potential without the centuries of war and suffering they experienced." "Why didn't they tell us this before?" Engineer Lopez asked. "They said we wouldn't have believed them," Summers answered. "We needed to see how the technologies worked first, to understand that they were giving us something real, not just a story." Captain Russell stood up and walked around the room thinking, "This changes things. If they're future humans, then this isn't alien technology at all. It's human technology, just more advanced than we can currently understand." "There's more," Summers said. "The archivist told me about a specific person who is key to all this, someone who can help humanity understand and accept the knowledge we brought back." "Who?" Russell asked. "My child," Summers said quietly. "My wife Kelly was pregnant when we left Earth. We've been told that our child was born safely after we disappeared. That child would be 41 years old now." The crew began searching for information about Summers' child. They found that Kelly had given birth to a daughter named Kate. After years of believing her husband was dead, Kelly had remarried. Kate Summers grew up to become a respected scientist working on clean energy solutions. "We need to find her," Russell decided. Finding Kate wasn't difficult. The challenge was meeting her privately, away from their government watchers. Finally, they arranged to have Dr. Moore give a lecture at Kate's university. While everyone was focused on the famous returned scientist, Captain Russell and Alan Summers slipped away to find Kate. They found her in her office, reviewing research papers. She looked up as they entered, her eyes widening in recognition. Everyone on Earth knew the faces of the Pathfinder crew by now. "Dr. Summers," Russell said politely, "we need to speak with you about something important." Kate stood up slowly. "I've been expecting you. Ever since the Pathfinder returned, I knew you would come eventually." She looked at Alan Summers carefully. Although she had never met him, she had seen photos of him all her life. Her mother had made sure she knew about her real father, the hero who had been lost in space. "You look like your mother," Alan said, his voice thick with emotion. Kate nodded. "And you look exactly like the photos. You haven't aged a day." They explained everything to her, about the archivists, the technologies, and what they had recently discovered about the archivists' true nature. "The archivist told me that you have a special connection to the knowledge they gave us," Alan said. "Something in your genetics makes you able to understand it more easily than most people." "That doesn't make sense," Kate said. "I'm just a normal scientist." "Have you ever had ideas that seemed to come from nowhere?" Russell asked. "Solutions that others couldn't see?" Kate was quiet for a moment. "All my life. I thought everyone had moments like that." Alan explained that the archivists had made subtle changes to his DNA before putting him in suspended animation. Those changes had been passed to his daughter. Kate was a bridge between current humanity and what humans could become. "Will you help us?" Russell asked. Kate didn't answer right away. She walked to the window and looked out at the campus where she had spent most of her career. "I've been working my whole life to solve energy problems. Now you're telling me the solutions have been here all along, locked in that ship." "Not just energy," Alan said. "Solutions to all the major challenges facing humanity. But people are afraid of change. They need someone they trust to show them it's safe." Kate turned back to them. "And you think that's me?" "The archivists do," Russell said. The next day, Kate visited the Pathfinder for the first time. As soon as she stepped on board, the ship's systems responded to her presence. Displays lit up. Dormant sections came online. "The ship recognizes," Dr. Moore said in amazement. Kate placed her hand on a console and a complete interface appeared, much more detailed than anything the crew had been able to access before. "I can see it all," she whispered. "How everything connects, the full database." Over the next few weeks, Kate worked with the crew to develop a plan. They would create a new organization, independent from any government or company. Its purpose would be to study the archivist knowledge and share it responsibly with the world. They called it the Bridge Foundation. One by one, they invited the best minds from around the world to join. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, artists. People who wanted to build a better future. They were carefully tested for their intentions. Those who wanted power or wealth were gently turned away. Those who wanted to help humanity were welcomed. 6 months after the Pathfinder's return, the first major breakthrough came in medicine. The Bridge Foundation released treatments for 5 of the world's deadliest diseases. They gave the knowledge freely, asking only that it be shared with everyone, regardless of wealth or nationality. Next came clean energy systems that could be built using existing materials. Then methods for growing food in barren soil. Water purification techniques that worked at large scale. Some still fought against the changes. But as more people benefited from the new technologies, resistance weakened. It's hard to argue against, something that clearly makes life better. A year after the Pathfinder's return, Captain Russell stood with Kate Summers on a hillside watching a sunset. "Do you think we've changed enough?" Russell asked. "Have we created a better timeline?" Kate smiled. "The archivists said there was no single moment that would determine success or failure. It's thousands of small choices made by billions of people over many years. But we've made a good start," Russell said. "Yes," Kate agreed. "A very good start." In orbit above them, the Pathfinder continued its silent watch. Its hull still shifted and changed, reflecting the sunlight in impossible. Inside, the archivist database waited, filled with knowledge humanity would spend centuries exploring. And somewhere beyond time, the archivists, humanity's distant children, watched their ancestors take the first steps toward a better future. The Pathfinder had been missing for decades, but what it brought back was worth the wait.